I have a whole
off-color
video on
statement
the
that some.
Talmud. I mean, the Talmud, people don't understand this. It's a compilation of discussions.
Mhm.
And saying that the Jews see things this way because somebody in the Talmud wrote it is like saying that one judge in the 1800s in America said something racist, so that means all Americans are racist inherently, which is obviously ridiculous. Now, unfortunately, there is a large percent of the, not a large percentage, there's a decent percentage of the Jewish population that does take random statements in the Talmud that suit their purposes literally and use that as justification for all kinds of nonsense. You see that rabbi yelling that Jesus is burning in excrement in the afterlife. It's like that's going to really that's going to solve the interfaith relationships of the 21st
Right.
century. But at the end of the day, I get what you're saying. That the Talmud being at least a valid heritage document to portray to us accurately the way that Jews of the time thought about biblical ideas, if not mixed in with some crazy Babylonian nonsense with it. So, can you use the Talmud as a guidebook to follow the law of the Torah? Absolutely. Should you take it as Torah law? Absolutely not.
Right. Yeah, so the rabbis never viewed the Talmud as something divinely inspired. This is what people don't understand. The bulk of the Talmud, in a respectful manner, is disposable. There's Agadah, which is Midrashim and Agadot, and there's Halacha. That means anything that's on the level of Medrash, of Agadata, has always been understood as secondary. That if anyone believed them as fully true, they were crazy, but that one shouldn't say that there's something we can't learn from these stories. This is why we have codifications of Jewish law like Mishnah Torah, Shulchan Aruch, which is an attempt to extract halacha, which is the only binding portion of the Talmud, from folklore and legend. However, when Kabbalists read the Talmud, they read it like they read the Zohar. Kabbalists view the Zohar as fully authoritative because most mystics make no distinction between law and mysticism. I mean, for them, they believe it was all given on Mount Sinai. While in the Talmud, they constantly make a distinction between Torah law and rabbinic law, constantly. And it's only to our downfall that we don't nowadays. And I think it's because of Kabbalistic influence.
So it's funny the whole Torah law versus rabbinical law. So I mean, people. I get a lot of comments, from people on the Jewish side that don't like me because I say truthful things, and I get a lot of comments from anti-Semites that don't like me because I say truthful things. Um, it's funny how that works when both sides don't like you on either extreme.
Mm.
But when I say, you're saying that Jews as an overarching category believe the Talmud in this way and that it's divine law. Like, according to Orthodox custom, you're not allowed to place a volume of the Talmud on a volume of the Torah because it's disrespectful, because one is from God and one is not. In fact, rabbinical law is founded on the idea, in part, HaTorah lo b'shamayim, which means the rabbis can ascertain and discern things about the Torah for you practically, but that doesn't mean it's Torah. That means it's for them to figure out for you what to do as the scholars of your generation. Now, I think we probably depart in a way where I don't accept rabbinical authority. I mean, I don't believe that it's that there's at least today it's fully corrupted. I mean, there's just nonsense fully embedded. People say, "What are you talking about? Most Jews don't even believe in Kabbalah." I'm like, you don't even realize you're hearing a Devar Torah at shul and the rabbi saying something, and he's saying something as if it was in the story in the Tanakh, and it's a Kabbalistic addition, and you don't even realize because it's just spewed out like it's part of it. People don't even realize how embedded that is. Now, that being said, do you think that Kabbalah has been a net positive on the Jewish world or a net negative, even if it's false?
A net negative straight through. Not just that. I mean, even the elevation of the books of the prophets to the level of the Torah has equated to a net loss to the Jewish people. We have to make distinctions. The rabbis made distinctions. Nowadays, we're living the dumbification of Judaism, where the rabbis have gotten too lazy to try to explain what's authoritative from what's optional to believe. And Judaism is based on the idea of optional beliefs. Nowadays, everything has become obligatory. This is why this Hidur is so thick. This is why during Yom Kippur davening, it takes 5 hours because they just keep on adding and adding and adding, which is a prohibition from the Torah to begin with, right? Lo tosef alav. Truthfully, the statements that appear in Kabbalah, I don't see them any more destructive than someone taking the mystical statements that appear in the Gemara literally. right? Because that's essentially what the Zohar is. It's a book of Agartha. It's folklore and legend. The difference is that it was like in some way canonized by the pen of divine inspiration by saying that the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, received it in a cave from God. I think the average Talmudic scholar understands that there's parts of the Talmud we don't hold by. But a Kabbalist could never say that about the Zohar. For them, it was awe. I mean, they call it the Zohar Kadosh. I mean, no one calls it, like the Talmud the Kadosh. All right. So they've elevated it to divinely inspired text, and they kept on adding to it. People just like bought into the hypocrisy because when the Zohar first appeared, it just appeared as like a parish to the Chumash, like a commentary to the Torah. And they just kept on adding more to it and adding more to it. And now it's huge. They have the audacity to say that it was all from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And even if it was from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it would have been the opinion of one Tana. That's not
Well,
the way the
I've
Beis
always
Din.
asserted that if you could prove,
Uh-huh.
contrary to 100% of scholarly consensus, people say, well, I believe this, I believe that, it's my tradition. 100% of scholarly consensus based on internal language and historical account, 100% of scholarly consensus is that the Zohar shows up sometime in 13th century Spain. It's estimated that the vast majority of it was written by De Leon and his students, as well as some contemporaries. There's no two ways about that. But if you could prove that the Zohar was written by Shimon Bar Yochai, what you'd actually be doing is invalidating him as an authority on the Torah, not validating the Zohar, because it's so psychotic. Some of the things that, like, the idea, and this is funny to me, and that was that video from the other day. It's funny to me that counter missionary rabbis will say Christians are reading into it and seeing it through a Christological lens, and that's why they say Jesus in the Old Testament, when Kabbalah is 5 steps removed from that. Like, the Christians are going, this is how we see these particular consistent themes. This is referring to the Holy Spirit. This is referring to Jesus. This is referring to God the Father. And it's consistent. There's no arbitrary additions to that. Now, they might be totally wrong, but it's consistent. Whereas with Kabbalah, it's just there's no specific thing that they're referencing. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. It's like, with Chachma, God created Bina, or some to that effect, meaning the feminine side of things and so on. But we're not going to get into a whole dissertation on the Zohar here. But where do you get that? Oh, because they're using a midrashic comparative form of exegesis that says in another place, Reshit is used to refer to wisdom. You're reading so far into it that it's incredible. It's just profoundly stupid, to be frank.
I view Kabbalistic or Lurianic Kabbalah a lot more problematic than Christianity, because at least there's a systemic theology in Christianity, while it seems that it's mystical ideas gone wild in Kabbalistic literature, from God having reproductive organs, having sex with himself, right? It's completely absurd. But I was saying earlier that even if it was written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it would have been the opinion of only one Tana. Now, what makes Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai such a special character in our history is that he was a member of the Sanhedrin, and the Sanhedrin ruled everything into existence by vote. And one principle is that the Sanhedrin only has authority on practical issues, what we call halacha l'maisa, not what you believe. Like, not an issue that deals with nister, with anything secretive. Now, they make a lot of statements that deal with mystical issues, but it's neither here or there. However, Torah lo b'shamayim means that the authority was given to the Sanhedrin, as per Parshat Shoftim. This is the way I learned it. That in all matters of dispute, in terms of what you do, not what you believe, the court had authority. And I wanted to introduce to you the Rambam's methodology to understanding the oral law, which would definitely invalidate every rabbi today, because every rabbi today, including myself, is a fake rabbi.